I'm Jill Savage, joined by Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
Great to be back in Dallas. The weather isn't the same as California, but I can smell the freedom.
And we can see the tan on you. And let's go ahead and welcome in our D.C. correspondent, Chris Bedford, as well, who got some sun down there in Georgia as well.
We have neither freedom nor good weather, so have fun with that.
Well, we are going to get
Georgia's nice, though.
All of the crazy topics, but that will actually have to wait until tomorrow because we actually have something really special for you today. So Matt actually, when he was in California getting all of that sun, was able to celebrate America's birthday in style. So tell us a little bit about your weekend.
Yeah, the only tan I get is red, but I do it anyway. I don't know. I do it anyway. California, of course, is a lovely place we used to live. I'm glad I'm not living there. I saw the burned out Malibu buildings on the PCH, beautiful, and then it looked like the third world. But we were there for a very important event. The Claremont Institute, which I've been associated with for a long time now, has this thing called the Statesmanship Award, and these are very serious scholars, serious intellectuals, and serious doers. And so when they give the Statesmanship Award these days, it actually means something. And as I was talking to the president, our friend Ryan Williams, he reminded me that this is an award they don't give out every year because, as you may surmise, I guess why? Because there aren't a lot of statesmen out there. And so the Statesmanship Award is a special one, and the fact that they gave it to the Vice President J.D. Vance, who is so young in his career, is notable. And it was just an incredible event. It was an incredible speech, and the Vice President demonstrated why he won that award when you just listened to his remarks.
Which is what we're going to do with the show today. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So during his speech, the Vice President laid out what it means to be an American. Take a look.
So I believe one of the most pressing problems for us to face as statesmen is to redefine the meaning of American citizenship in the 21st century. What does it mean to be an American in 2025? For one, I think it has to mean sovereignty. More precisely, American citizenship must mean belonging to a nation that guards the sovereignty of its people, especially from a modern world that's hell-bent on dissolving borders and differences in national character. And I think that means having a government that vigorously defends the basic qualities of sovereignty, that secures the border from foreign invasion, that protects its citizens and their enterprises against unfair foreign tax schemes, that erects tariff walls and similar barriers to protect its people's industry, that avoids needlessly entangling them in prolonged, distant wars. It also means preserving the basic legal privileges of citizenship, things like voting, including in state and local elections, or access to benefits like certain state-run healthcare programs for citizens. And if you pay attention, most of the howling about the big, beautiful bill reduces to the fundamental fact that President Trump believes that Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security ought to go to the American people, not to illegal aliens who don't have the right to be here. And when states, and of course we're in one right now, start handing out these benefits to illegal aliens, they cheapen the very meaning of citizenship. And a nation that refuses to make that distinction will not stay a nation for very long. I'd also say that citizenship in the 21st century necessarily means building, because America is not just an idea. We're a particular place with a particular people and a particular set of beliefs and way of life. Our ancestors realized that to carve a successful nation from new land meant creating new, tangible things, new homes, new towns, new infrastructure to tame a wild continent. That is our heritage as Americans. That attitude enabled us to build the world's greatest cities, its tallest skyscrapers, the most impressive dams and canals that the world had ever seen. Over time, of course, it expanded the horizons of what we even thought possible as human beings, with Americans taking our species into the air and just a generation later into Earth's orbit. Our innovations, American innovations, revolutionized communications, medicine, and agriculture, extending human lifespan decades at a time. And none of that would be possible if our citizens believed we lived in a post-industrial era. You can't get to the moon on financial derivatives, You get to the moon on engineering and on building things. We had an era where our finest minds just went to what are essentially speculative trades, or to writing software that makes us more efficient consumers. Again, these can be important and honorable professions, but they're not enough. And now, in the 21st century, is the time to build. We need to make great things here for the betterment of our fellow Americans, but also for our posterity. We need to continue to invent groundbreaking innovations and to leave homes and libraries and factories that our descendants will look at someday and feel a sense of awe. And we need to build together as one American family. Getting to the moon required a lot of brilliant scientists working on what were effectively pocket calculators and slide rules. But it also required a national system of education that produced that level of genius, that fostered that level of genius, that inspired young graduates to look to the stars and want to go there on behalf of their nation. And it required a ton of very talented engineers and welders and custodians to manufacture the cutting-edge engines and to keep the facilities that house them spotless. It was a national project in the truest sense of the phrase. It had PhDs and people who didn't graduate from high school. And I think to be a citizen in the 21st century must mean that we should be thinking about the future in similar ways and building similar projects as an American family. Citizenship should mean feeling pride in our heritage, of course, but it should also mean understanding milestones like the moon landings, not only as the products of the past national greatness, but as achievements we should surpass by aligning the goals and ambitions of Americans at all levels of society. And by the way, when we went to the moon, when we built the great future of the post-war era, we did it with our fellow citizens. And we should reject whether it's Democrat politicians or corporate oligarchs who say that we can only build the future by importing millions and millions of low-wage serfs. We can do it with American citizens. We've just got to have the will to actually try.
Well, you just heard Vance's definition. So let's get into what it means, just the American citizenship overall and how it's different now, Matt, than it was during the founding.
Yeah, I think the vice president really made an important point here. I mean, he pivoted from statesmanship, right, which is what the award is. And he said, if you are a statesman now, you should be concerned with what citizenship is, because after all, citizenship is what makes us all part of the nation. And so this is a very serious topic. It's tied to everything that we talk about, everything going on in the news, everything the Trump administration is trying to do. And what you need to understand is that this notion has changed over time, Jill. It's changed quite a bit. At the time of the founding, this really meant that you were all, you had friendship in terms of the regime under which you lived. And in Republican citizenship, you the people are actually supposed to rule, govern yourselves, and govern, the rest of the country, really and truly. And what has happened over the last century, really, is that citizenship is almost like a benefit program. It's like you get bennies by becoming a citizen. You want to become a citizenship to get your benefits. And the sort of notion of responsibility, of duty, and of its importance have gone away. So it's almost to the point where we've diminished it so much that it's just a kind of status that you get in order to get certain benefits. And that's the way it's treated by American elites. And so when he says we need to redefine that, and part of it is going back to what it was, and part of it is defining it in a way that makes sense for the 21st century.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think it means to actually be an American citizen right now in the year 2025? There are so many different things that are going on in the news cycle all the time, but when it all gets down to it, what does it mean to be an American citizen?
Well, it's certainly more than simply an idea, and it's certainly more than just a bunch of privileges. It is also a bunch of responsibilities. It's duties. These are the essential aspects of a citizen. The duty to be a active and intelligent and informed participant in your community and in your state and local governance, and every few years in your federal governance as well. The duty to sign up for the draft and be willing to answer that call if it comes. A duty to pay your taxes. A duty to be part of this United States in this project. But I also think that there's something that we've gotten really off in this complete and total demand that America is just an idea, not a place, and not a people with shared history and shared values and largely shared religion, shared borders, shared language. When you make it just an idea and you make us cogs in a global economic machine like that are interchangeable, the way the vice president was talking about, you really water it down. And we also have to understand that there's a difference between being a citizen and being American. There are certainly citizens here who are new. You can buy citizenship now through a program that President Trump and the Treasury Secretary put together to help bring money into this economy. Does that make a guy from Cyprus or a guy from Hungary or a guy from Turkey an American? Not any more than me getting my Irish citizenship, which I'm allowed to do, would make me Irish. Maybe I've got Irish heritage. And the Vance kind of touched on that, and it's an interesting subject that he has a little bit of moral ability to be able to make, and as long as your personal lived experience is what informs your ability to weigh in on important subjects like this, as the left always insists. You know, his wife is an American, born and raised, an American citizen, raised with American values, raised the whole way, understanding the history of this country, helping pushing forward. She's an American. Her parents were U.S. citizens, but they were not American. They wouldn't have considered themselves that. They were immigrants to this country. They're the same way where if I immigrated to Britain and became a British citizen, I could become a Brit, but I would not be English. And that's something that we overlook the importance of. Now, the president of the United States is the only office I'm aware of where the person must be a natural born citizen on U.S. soil. Remember, that was a big to-do when Senator John McCain ran because he was born abroad on a military base. That's something that people are brought up with Elon Musk. Of course, that's something that was frequently brought up where President Barack Obama's was actually from. And you hear that from Trump's initial entrance into politics. But we don't talk about it, for example, which we're going to get to later in the show with the mayor of New York or with some members of the squad who represent parts of this country that look a lot more like Somalia and act a lot more like Somalia and practice the religion of Somalia and don't like America like Somalia, but seem to be in America and have U.S. citizenship. We're uncomfortable talking about that kind of reality, that those people, a lot of them, may be citizens, but if they're Somali, that's where they're from, that's where they're raised, that's their culture, that's their language, that's their history, and their children might not be. But that's the reality for a lot of them. And you see different results with that. And you see different feelings about the United States from a homegrown businessman in Iowa than you do with a billionaire Indian tech CEO who was born in that country and came over here. The commitment to the ideals of the United States beyond prosperity, benefits, defense, and the freedom to say what you want, that is not always valued at quite the highest level. And sometimes it is. I know a lot of people who really, truly, deeply do and try to give this to their children and raise them like that. But it's not universal and it's not an automatic truth.
One of the things that I like about J.D. Vance is that when he was going through the campaign trail, he always made it feel like things were bigger and possible than even just what we are able to do ourselves. And Matt, I think in this speech, he pointed that out, right? With going to the moon and just going through and just coming together as a unified nation and building and having national projects and trying to get the most out of everyone. Is anything like that even possible in this day and age?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really important thing that you see Trump almost memeing into existence by saying, no, this is going to be the golden age and we're going to build things and we're not going to stagnate, damn it. And this is not the time for depression. We are going to dream big and build big. And that's something that the president certainly has been about his entire life. And so I really think that people they discount that as if it's just, talk. It's not talk because it's the mindset that comes with citizenship. And what Vance does in this speech is, first he says, we need to go back to sovereignty. So if you're a citizen, that means you have the ability to decide who you let into your country. That's supposed to be your, decision. You and your fellow citizens actually are supposed to run the country. People are so disenfranchised right now, right? Even if they can vote, they feel as if they're subjects and not citizens. And one of the ways to reinvigorate citizenship is to say, no, this is your country. And the positive side of that is you can build things. We will help you build things. We need to dream big. We need to band together to do large national projects again. And that's really, really important stuff because that can can also help. It's like a circle. They sovereignty, realizing that you actually are in charge or should be in charge as citizens, and being able to build things. Those things go together, right? Because if you think you're just a subject, a serf, you think you have no say, you think your citizenship really doesn't mean anything other than like a benefits card, then all of a sudden you're going to act like that, right? You're not going to go out and dream big and do the things that some of these people have shown can still be done. I mean, Musk, for whatever his problems are right now, I mean, he's one of these guys who has gone out and achieved great things and dreamed big. And so I really think that Vance is also about a positive vision. He understands this can't just be negative. This can't just be like old school conservatism, bitching about how terrible things are and everything's declining. We actually have to have a vision for the future. And the thing that I respect the most about the man is that he's been thinking about that, right? He's been thinking about what is the positive vision? What does that look like in the 21st century? What is our way of life? What should it be? And that's really significant stuff. I just can't say enough about it because, I don't gush over politicians very much at all. I really don't like most of them at all. But it's so rare that someone actually thinks about that. And now you can see him starting to lay something positive out, and that was really interesting.
You can think about all the positivity when you look at what's going on with J.D. Vance, but there is something that throws a cog into that wheel, and that is called communism. J.D. Vance is going to talk about that and the potential New York mayor right after this. Real quick before we get back to the show, we need to talk about the ranchers in this country. Don't let them down because, the grocery store meat is coming from overseas. Support American workers and American family farms. You've heard me say it. 85% of the so-called grass-fed beef in stores is imported. That's why you need to get all your meat from goodranchers.com. They sell only 100% American meat. It's born, raised, and harvested right here on local family farms, and it's really good. We know it's summertime right now. There's nothing better than grilling with your friends and family. We have steaks and burgers and chicken and all the wild-caught seafood. You'll be able to taste the difference. Every box supports American ranchers, and right now, if you subscribe, you'll get your pick of free meat for life. You can pick from Wagyu burgers, hot dogs, bacon, or wings in every box. Plus, if you use my code Jill, you'll get an extra $40 off at checkout. It's goodranchers.com, code Jill. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered.